What's up, guys? Welcome to the Duel Links Entertainment YouTube channel. I'm here with another episode of our meta analysis series, and I'm here today to talk about Witchcrafters, the new deck from the new box. And I'm joined today by Gnurrgard. He is from the DLM Discord. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Gnurrgard from Germany. I'm the coordinator and the TCG clan, mostly doing like matchup testing and deck building because I'm pretty decent at figuring that out. And yeah, I was also pretty decent in deck building in other games like Gwent, for example. So
Right.
like deck building is kind of my hobby here in card games.
Oh, Gwent. That's a card game I haven't dipped my toe in. Pretty interesting. So yeah, Witchcrafters have come to Duel Links. Since their release, they've gotten kind of two splashes of new cards. You know, from the DSOD Taya, they got 2 drops, and then DSOD Taya herself came with some drop rewards. So this is definitely made for one of the more interesting decks to come to the meta sense. And so I think we should start off by going over how Witchcrafters interact with each other and the cards themselves. So, want to quickly go over each card? We can do that.
So if you look at the card groups we have, it's so the Witchcrafter is I think an academy. So you have the low-level monsters like 1 to 4 stars, and they are students, so to speak. And then you have the teachers, which in the game currently are Madame Vera and Edel. So the small Witchcrafters all have a quick effect in the main phase that they can discard a spell and then special summon a Witchcrafter from the deck. And yeah, then they all have a grave effect as well. So if we go over them, we have Shmieta, which in the grave you can banish her to mill a Witchcrafter card from your deck. Then you have Genny, which is a newer edition, which can banish herself and a Witchcrafter spell to copy that spell's effect. Interesting interaction, it doesn't count as activating the spell card, which is important as we go through the spells.
Gotta learn how to use it.
And last up, we have Pitore, which is banished from the grave and gives you a Dark World Dealings effect. So you draw a card and discard a Witchcrafter card.
Alright. So, Witchcrafters, right? The monsters work in tandem with the spells. So, let's talk about the spells and how they interact with monsters.
Sure. So all the spells have 2 lines that are across all the spells. The first one is you can only activate one of the effects and only once per turn. And they all have one effect, smaller benefit, and then the second effect is in the end phase, if you control a Witchcrafter monster, you can take the card from the grave to your hand. So first up, we have Witchcrafter Collaboration, which allows your Witchcrafter to attack twice. Also, your opponent cannot activate spells or traps when you attack with them. Then we have Witchcrafter Holiday, which is a monster reborn for Witchcrafters, and Witchcrafter Unveiling, which is a quick spell that special summons a Witchcrafter from your hand. Also, for the rest of the turn, the Witchcrafters can't be negated.
Oh, nice. So, the Witchcrafters, so the gist of this is the level 4 or lower ones have the effect to tribute them and discard a spell to special summon one from the deck. And then the big ones, the Edel and the, which is not pictured here, but we'll see it later, and the Madame Very, they have powerful effects of their own by just discarding spell. Go. So we can start talking about some of the different ways to play the deck and cards that you see when you see deck lists. So perfect example. And first deck that we're going to go over, this is the MCS deck by Luke Tyler. Where did he place with this? Top 8?
Top 8, yeah.
Top 8 in the most recent MCS. He is playing Witchcrafters along with Neos, Fusion, and some heavy back row. So why did this pop off so hard? And why are we playing the heavy back row?
Well, first of all, we have to mention here that at the time the MCS was played, we didn't have access to Witchcrafter Edel or any of the new threat cards.
Or Masterpiece.
Yeah, Masterpiece. Oh wait, we had Patronus, right? So, um, what Witchcrafters are good at is consistently bringing out Madame Vera, which is a monster negate for all the field. The problem the deck has is, like on its own, is putting on pressure and having defense beyond your monster negation. So Luke handles that by including Neos, which is a decent beater. Also, the mill effect puts the students in the grave, which gives you access to their grave effects. Plus, the trap lineup, which gives you additional defense. Luke said himself that the deck is more of a grind deck, so you have to work for your wins, is what he said.
Right, and
One thing to note here is Raigeki Break and Karma Cut have very good synergy with the Witchcrafter spells because the discard cost is minimal as you get the spells back at the end of your turn.
yeah, totally. And something to notice about this, right? Witchcrafters as a deck are very reliant on drawing and seeing the monsters together with the spells. So, if you're running an engine along with them, Neos works very well because Neos is a tight engine. 2 out of the 3 cards for Neos Fusion are spells. So, it's not like it's hurting you in consistency like we see with other decks that run engines along with. Yeah, I think that really contributes to see this.
Also, the second Neos Fusion is usually dead in other decks. Like you have 2 Neos Fusions, but you only want to resolve it twice. But here you can just discard it and have extra protection for your Neos, so that's a nice little benefit.
Yeah, you can discard it for protection with your Neos. You can reveal it for bonus with the Very. You can do so much with spells. All right. So, anything else on these texts before we move on to the next deck list?
I mean, I don't think we touched upon that he runs balance because he's Luke Tyler. He
Balance.
loves
Yeah, he's
balance.
always playing a balance.
Just having a spell, a Witchcrafter, and some extra layer of protection is the game plan he wants to go for consistently.
Okay, so our next deck list we have is, I believe it is yours. This is, bam, 25 cards, correct? Lightsworns?
Yep.
Right.
So this was the idea I had when the cards were announced. The level ups from Taya, so Madame like Idle and the traps, which I don't run here. I tested Masterpiece as a 2-off, but I didn't like it because it wasn't a spell, so you couldn't discard it. So sometimes you had a hand of a couple monsters and then the traps, and you couldn't do anything. You could consider running it over Kite Rod, but I like the life point protection because you can grind for your games. So what the Lightsworn engine does here is, first of all, obviously all the students have effects in the grave, so that's nice. And the big thing that put Lightsworn over the top, I think, is the addition of Idle, which has an effect that she can tribute herself from the board to special summon a spellcaster. So it's not only Witchcrafters, it's spellcasters. So she gives you access to Lumina and Myla, which means due to Holiday, you can always revive Idle, which can revive one of your Lightsworns, so you can consistently pump out Synchros or back row removal if you need it.
Wow, so Edel is...
Synchros...
Okay, yeah, I was just going to say, Edel lets you summon spellcasters, so even, your late game, you're still using your 1 Edel, you can summon back possibly an Every, right? Get it back in rotation. I mean,
Yeah.
Given it's in your graveyard, it'll probably be... It's interrupted. Still get it out.
Yep, exactly. So it'll opens up a lot of possibilities, which we also will see in the next deck list.
Okay, so...
But yeah, this is the idea behind it. Running spell specialist, because you usually run spells. If you look at it, we have the Lightsworn spell, which we always run, and then one of each Witchcaster spell, which leaves us with 1 extra slot for spell specialist, which I decided Forbidden Lands to play through backward.
Okay, so I have a question specifically for this deck. So usually when I see Lightsworn Engine and a deck that benefits very strongly from discarding, usually people just say, forget it, I'm going to play 30 cards. Why have you decided that you're not gonna do that. You're still gonna just play exactly what you.
Yeah, if you run 30 cards, you have to increase the amount of Witchcrafter, like the small ones, and then you run into the risk of drawing multiple of them, which isn't always the best, unless you have Pitora, which can ditch the other one. I wanted to keep it clean. One of my principles when building decks is start off pure, so no shenanigans when you start off. You just do what you want to do first, and then you can start adding cards that do different things. So with this version, I want to have consistent mills, consistent hands, and then I can see what the weaknesses and strengths are. But this is a very well version of the deck, I feel. Like I've played it the last couple days and I like it.
Right, I'm definitely gonna pick this up and give it a try. So now we can talk about the next deck after you've explained this one. This is kind of alluding to what I was talking about. This next one. And this is, I believe, by BZ Sakura. I think he posted this on Twitter either like the first day that the new cards came out. And there is a edit here. I do not have Monster Gate, funny enough, on my account, so I have a third unveiling here. But Sakura would have a Monster Gate. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about this and how.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about earlier, like when you start adding stuff. So he does not run Lumina, as you can see.
Yeah.
He runs as another spellcaster target. He runs Magician Girl Kiwi, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Kiwi Magician
because
Girl.
if you get her and Vera on board, you have a monster that protects your spellcasters from being destroyed or targeted, and you can negate monster effects. So that's a pretty hard board to break for mini decks. So the idea is to mill Kiwi somehow, and then bring her back with Adel, and then Vera is pretty consistent anyway in this deck. And then because you go 30 cards, you just slap that one grass in, because if you draw it, you win the game. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like, just going all out here, just so you have your resources, obviously you're banking here on just dumping everything to the grave and making use of it with what you do have in your hands. So Sakura here is playing the trap. What are some reasons to play Witchcrafter Patronus? You weren't playing it at all in your Lightsworn, so why is it good here?
It's pretty good in like drawn out games, because as the game progresses, you sometimes banish more spells due to Genny's effect, for example. And the grave effect of Patronus lets you add all the banished Witchcrafter spells back to your hand. So I believe it's only banished. Yeah, every banished card. So you can replenish your hand for that final push, like for the final attack from one of your Witchcrafters, because the more spells you have in hand, the more boost you can get with Very. The other effect, the on-field effect, is also useful. For example, if you play against Dark Magician and they, for example, banish your Adel, then in the normal version you can get it back, but with Patronus you can shuffle one of your banished spellcasters into your deck and then get a spell from your deck. So you plus there and you get your resource back into the deck. So
Right.
This deck has a lot higher power ceiling, I would say, than my deck. As you can see, he also doesn't run Spell Specialist, he runs Show of Nightmares, which is, my skill is more of a consistency skill, and this is a power skill, so you can get your spells back from the grave. Also goes for Necro Valley, the skill, so it's not affected by that.
Right, so a couple things. The Patronus does help a vital weakness that Witchcrafters do have, and that is to being banished. Being hit by Circle. I can't think of some other banishes off the top of my head, but Circle especially is very, very threatening to the deck. So for other decks, like, I do believe you were running Lance, Forbidden Lance in your deck, so that's one way to get around Oppressive back row that way. Yeah, so I wanted to ask about Witchcrafter Masterpiece. I didn't see it in any of these decks, likely because most decks didn't have access to it or didn't have a place for it, maybe didn't test it. So where do you think that deck, that card, Witchcrafter Masterpiece, fits in?
Yeah, I've tried it, and the issue I found is that first you don't really want to set it because it's very slow, and you want to get on board with this deck very fast because otherwise you will get run over. And then the grave effect, in theory, you'd think, okay, if I have a spell and this card, I can get out Genny, and then I can get on the board. But then you have to think, how do I get these cards in the grave? And the answer is Charge of the Light Brigade. And if you have that card, you're already in the game. You don't need Masterpiece. So that's why I cut it.
All right, so just for the sake of the video, if you control a Witchcrafter monster, target one spell in either graveyard, add one card with the same name from your deck to your hand during either player's turn, except during the card sent to the graveyard. You can banish this card and any number of spells from your graveyard, special summon one after from your deck whose levels equals. Yeah, its graveyard effect is kind of niche when you get down to it because all your monsters really do that better than Witchcrafter Masterpiece. Yep. So, before we start talking about the tournament-specific matchups, what are some general pro-cons for Witchcrafters?
Well, the pro is obviously the monster negation and the consistency. So the getting Vera out is very easy with this deck. So you always have that monster negation, and fans of consistency will love this and this deck. Another pro is the resource generation, if you're a fan of that. This deck can get a lot of pluses, even if you don't run Patronus.
Right.
And for the Lightsworn version, I would say one of the pros is it's really a blast to play. Like both the Lightsworn version, especially the Synchro version, you can do a lot of crazy plays if you can just have your if you just know what you're doing, know how to manage your grave and your hand.
That's the thing for me.
It's really fun to play.
The deck looks like I was playing it before we got any of the event cards, and I think then I got the gist of it. Right, I had it down, but now we've got like Genny and the traps and Edel, and I'm totally lost now. I have no idea what's going on, so I'm definitely gonna have to watch some replays. Hopefully we can revisit this because I definitely want to get some footage for this on channel. So what do you think are some of the weaknesses?
First of all, is sometimes you just end on a board of Vera, and that's not enough against like the very competitive decks who can bait out the negation and then they can run over you. First of all, it comes to mind is Blackwings. Can do that very easily. Second of all is you don't have inbuilt anti-back row, so you have to run text like Lance. Lila sometimes helps, but not always. Sometimes you just kill her, for example. And then speaking of Lila, she's obviously included because of Necro Valley, which is very hard counter to this deck.
Yeah, so we were talking on the power rankings about how Blackwings is an example of a very strong deck, a deck that's very strong against Witchcrafters. Does the Lightsworn engine kind of help it where against decks that it's weak against? Because just like looking at it this way, right? It gives you added threats that your opponent has to worry about, and that's always good, especially since you were ending on those Madame Vera boards, and that wasn't enough in certain decks.
Yeah, I think the issue against Blackwings is not putting out enough threats, it's just like surviving their push. So you would need to have more defensive options. That's why I include Psy Framelord Zeta in my deck, because if you get Vera and Zeta, it's a bit harder for Blackwings to make their push, because you could just take out one of their special summoned monsters with Zeta to have one extra disruption. I always say with Blackwings can play around one disruption easily, and for like 2 disruptions, it's going to be a bit harder.
Okay. All right, so we've talked a little bit about Blackwings, so let's go around the tier list really quickly. So, Crystron's tier 1 deck, what are Witchcrafters doing when they see him?
Yeah, so when the deck was announced and you saw the monster negation that you can consistently put out, the first thing came to mind is it's a Crystron counter. It's pretty decent against Crystron, but if your opponent knows what they're doing with Crystrons, they have ways to play around it. For example, they can bait out a negate, and then they can still go Quarion if they have Turtle Engrave. Or, for example, the Sea Stealth Attack version doesn't really have problems because you can't negate the Sea Stealth Attack, right? They can just run into your variant dice.
Okay, so next we have Dark Magician. How much do the new cards help it?
Yeah, I think against Dark Magician, the Lightsworn engine helps, especially just like getting your charge into Lila, and then Lila forces out the navigation, and then you can still do your plays with whatever you have in the graveyard or in your hand. Like you can do a holiday play from the grave or unveiling play from the hand. Against Dark Magician, it's just about surviving that one play, and then you should be good. So that definitely helped the matchup. I don't know if it's favored, but it's definitely helped. And then Patronus can get your banished boss monsters back.
Element Sabers.
Yeah, against Element Sabers, I think the engine does a big difference because before you kind of just sit on your boss monster and negate it. And that's fine because you can negate a lot against Element Sabers, but a smart Element Saber will just wait because you can't pressure them. So they amass a lot of back row and their invoke play. Then they can flip down your Varia when the time's right, go into their Purgatrio and then run over it or do whatever they want.
Right. And the big bad Shiranui.
It's pretty similar concept to Element Sabers where they have a lot of back row and you kind of have to pressure them even though you can disrupt their plays with your negate. So again, the Lightsworn engine helps just putting out the threat. Although a good Shiranui player will end phase Fiendish Chain, so going second is very hard for even if you have Lance, because Lance is just for one turn, so you can survive one turn against Fiendish Chain, but Cyclone is a better alternative there to get rid of the Lance. Yeah.
So yeah, but losing Sun Saga and other stuff like Madame Very when it first came out, like that was the big thing, being able to take down big monster like Saga.
Yeah. Sun Saga can't even run over your Very if you have one spell in hand, and then you can negate his destruction, you can negate his protection, so that's not hard to deal with. It's more about the back row. You have to somehow get through that.
Oh, now here we got Cyber Dragons.
Against Cyber Dragons, I think it's about, do you have the Lance, the Cyclone, whatever. It's like, or do you go first? If you go first, it's also good because you can negate the core and chances are they don't have the hand to kill you.
That's it. Mass Heroes.
I haven't seen Masked Heroes a lot lately, although they have been popping up a bit more. The negate definitely helps because the most things that Masked Heroes do is with their monster effects. A big issue here is Plasma, so you have to get rid of their board. You can't let them go into Plasma. So against Plasma, like Luke Tyler's version is very good because you have the background. They go into Plasma, you can just Karma cut it and then you're safe.
Okay. And last but not least, Ritual Beasts.
Yeah, against Ritual Beast, one big tip is don't negate on the Elder because you can't negate Elder. Other than that, good negates would be like Canahawk to disrupt their resource generation or the Paddle Fin. Like on the first turn, usually you want to negate what they're putting out first. Because their boss monster, like Ulti Canahawk, you can't really negate that because it just tags out. And the Ulti Apelio can't run over your Very anyway, it's not a threat to you.
Alright, so that is those are the matchups for Witchcrafters. Thank you for coming on. I am definitely gonna be diving deep into Witchcrafters, getting my hands dirty. I figure that's the only way I am gonna learn the deck. Gotta get in there. So yeah, anything else you want to mention about the deck? Closing stuff and shout outs. You want?
Definitely shout outs to my clan, TCG, and the Synchron gang, like John and Joe, Herbal, Bendy, you know who you
Oh
are,
yeah, those guys are
Alex.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see what we can do with this deck. There's still a lot of potential in Adel because you can just rest any spellcaster, so we have to just dig through the card pool and see what spellcasters you can abuse with that.
All right, guys, thank you for coming out. We're definitely going to be visiting Witchcrafters again once they get a little bit more optimized. But until then, we'll see you around. Enter the tournaments, guys. Get up in the Discord. I'm going to leave a link in the description. Get in there, play Witchcrafters, become a part of the meta. Hit up Gamersupps in the description. Oh, 10% off, code DLE. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Bye.